Amityville BOE School District Board of Education work session meeting. Today's date is September 11th, 2024. And I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:34 p.m. At this time, present at the meeting is myself, is President Lisa Johnson. Second Vice President Megan Messman, Trustee Wendy Knestro, and Trustee Caroline Fanning. Also present is Superintendent Dr. Gina Talbot, Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, Ms. Watson. Also Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Ms. Mary Stevens. Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Dr. Bridget Waite. Also present is Carl Frazier, Financial Consultant, as well as Lisa Hutchison is here as well. Also coming in is Trustee Chris Naring and Trustee Leslie Kretz, and Carol Seahawk will be attending. They'll be joining us in a little bit. At this point in time, it is now 5:35 p.m. Can I? Wait just a moment. I can go. I can have a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of advice from the council regarding CSEA updates.
John will be here for that, yes.
Particular persons' employment history, as well as entities or position, administrative position within the district. So Trustee Leslie Kretz just arrived as well.
Move it.
Wendy Knestro is first. Leslie Kretz is second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 6-6.
I'm resuming open at 7:43. Please note the emergency exit clears to where you are seated, excuse me. Silence your cell phones at this point in time and no smoking on school grounds. Can you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? At this point in time, this is the day that many of us remember where we were at certain times in the morning and how we felt throughout the entire day. Some of us lost loved ones. Some of us know individuals who survived, but they have passed on from their injuries. I think we all have been impacted some way, somehow, when 9/11 happened. And I suspect that each of us can remember exactly where we were and what we were doing when the first plane hit and then the second plane hit, and then when the towers collapsed, right? So in honor of the men and women who were there at the front line, looking for people, hoping for people they had survived, for the families that were struggling at home, not being able to hear from a loved one, not knowing if they had survived or not survived. And then hearing the sad news that they did survive. But more importantly, there are still men and women today who still have the effects of 9/11, from different lung diseases to loss of memory. The list is endless. And at this point in time, I would like us as a Board of Education, as a cabinet, and as the audience, as a community, to just take a moment of silence to recognize and honor those individuals who are no longer here. And we lost an individual here in our own community, Peter O'Neill, who passed away through 9/11. So we can just take a moment of silence. I really would appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for taking a moment of silence.
Madam President, could I just?
Yes.
We actually had two residents, Louise A. Lynch,
Okay.
whose granddaughter is a student at the middle school, and she actually read off names at the memorial today in the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Her
Chris.
granddaughter is Harper DeBruin.
Thank you. Dr. Talbot.
Good evening once again to the Board of Ed, our colleagues, and community. On a beautiful Tuesday morning, 23 years ago, our lives were changed forever. As a community and a nation, we were stunned. We mourned the tragic loss of life here in New York, in Pennsylvania, and in Washington, D.C. Today is a day of remembrance for both the victims and for the heroes who emerged that day. This annual day of remembrance ensures that we never forget not only the pain of that moment, but also the courage, sacrifice, and outpouring of love that defined our response as a nation. At this time, I invite Ms. Mary Stevens, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, who will come forth with a special moment and acknowledgement for some who we consider heroes in the rescue mission. Ms. Stevens.
Thank you, Dr. Talbert. Tonight, as you mentioned, we remember those we lost on that fateful day, especially Amityville residents Louise Lynch and Peter O'Neill. But we also give thanks for the heroes among us who have dedicated their lives to protecting our safety, our freedom, and our democracy. To those who work tirelessly in the rescue effort. Jesus Barrios is joining us tonight as we honor our employees who were 9/11 first responders. Jesus is a senior at the Amityville Memorial High School and was not yet born when these men and women gave of themselves in the aftermath of the attack. He interviewed several of our security guards about their experiences to craft this beautiful tribute to them. The artwork that you saw at the end of the video was designed by Amityville Memorial High School sophomore Ashley Huete Areola. We have had replicas made and framed for each of our honorees tonight. We begin tonight by honoring the memory of our two Adams, Adam Jengle and Adam Schachtel. We recognize their service and spirit, and they are missed. The following employees were 9/11 first responders. While they are unable to join us this evening, we thank them for their service to our country and to our community. Robert Anderson, Derek Andreone, Linda Brutus, Kevin Burke, Severio Cuda, Thomas D'Alessandro, Robert Dix, Michael Durkin, Jeffrey Gill, Michael Greco, Rafael Hernandez, William Hughes, Anthony Lanzillotta, Scott Liebegot, Scott Labono, Gregory Martin, William McCarthy, Salvatore Macchio, Carrie Policastro, William Siemens, David Steinberg, and Gerard Zager. Tonight, it is my pleasure to introduce to you and recognize the heroes among us who have been able to join us this evening. I think Jesus and Dr. Talbert will help us hand out the frames. When I call your name, please come forward. Vinroy Ambersley. Timothy Beck. Sheldon Brutus. Stephen Ferguson. Baldwin Henry. Dennis Robinson. Phyllis, I don't have you on my list. Should you be up here with us? Thank you all for your service. We are so appreciative. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. How you doing? I'm one of the first responders here. I'd like Mr. Burgers, Barrios to come up front, please. Without him, this wouldn't be possible. So I'd like to, shake his hand. Thank you for everything you do, right? And since, you told our story and we appreciate everything you do, right? This is a pin, from our 20th anniversary of the two gentlemen that passed away from my command, Mark Ellis and Raymond Suarez. I'd like to present this to you. And a personal invitation. Not from the personal invitation. I know you're gonna graduate next year, so, I mean, this year, sorry, or, you know, this coming up. Next, 9/11, you're gonna be my personal guest and your family at my command, District 4, 14th Street Union Square. And you get to meet the Suarez family and all the first responders that were there that day. They're still with us, okay? So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you once again. As we transition to some back to school presentations, tonight you're going to hear district-wide from the superintendent, our goals and where we're going. Following my presentation, you will hear from the high school administration team and the middle school administration team. The presentations will be no longer than 5 to 7 minutes each. And the intent is to give you an overview and a highlight, not all of the details and wonderful things that are taking place in those schools. Our theme for this year is building bridges and breaking barriers. Let's see if we can get this right. Sure. Thank you. There is a mission that drives what we do here in the Amityville School District, and it's really the driver behind our why. I'm going to read it aloud to you in completion tonight because we have to embody the reason why we do what we do. So here in Amityville, our mission is to create and maintain a quality, caring, educational environment, addressing academic, vocational, and social programs, and enabling students to achieve their highest potential for growth. To promote an environment that fosters respect and ethical behavior while instilling values that enable the individual to distinguish right from wrong. The family and the community will share in this responsibility. Curiosity and compassion must be basic to the personal repertoire while we prepare our student scholars to function as effective citizens in an ever-changing global community. So our theme for the school year is building bridges. This means that we're focusing on strengthening relationships between students, parents, staff, and our community. We are promoting open communication, collaboration, and mutual support. In order to build the bridges, we have to break some barriers. And so we've been working cohesively to identify and dismantle those obstacles that hinder student success. We know those barriers lie in the areas of academic, social, emotional, and our goal is to provide the support and resources needed to overcome them. And so last year, we all had a very challenging year. And so we need to rebound from some things that we experienced last year. And so rebound means to spring back after hitting a difficult or painful obstacle. I think we've all gained some resilience, and we must not let our setbacks define us. However, we must use it as a launching pad so we can rise higher together as a district. So we don't want to go back to where we were. We want to push forward with a greater determination and resolve. Recover, what does it mean to recover? And we are in a year of recovery. It means to regain something that was lost, whether it's our sense of purpose or passion for teaching, or our belief in the potential of our student scholars. And recovery is about healing, about coming back stronger, more united, more committed to the cause. And we want every school community member to rediscover the joy of education and power, because that is what transforms our student scholars' lives. And so moving forward for the 24-25 school year, in the core academic subjects, our goal is to increase the proficiency rate in core academic subjects, math, ELA, science, and social studies by 5% across all grade levels by the end of the school year. And we have some specific actions that will enable us to do this. We are targeting our professional development for teachers around data-driven instruction. We're increasing the use of formative assessments and data analytics to identify and support our students who are most at risk. And we are analyzing the integration of technology in our digital resources to enhance our student engagement and learning outcomes. We're going to measure this through our quarterly benchmark assessments and compare the progress to our baseline data from last year. We believe that our 5% increase is statistically attainable as we integrate on a consistent implementation those processes we've just shared. And our progress will be reviewed quarterly with the final review in June of 2025. Our next goal centers around culture and climate to improve overall student and staff satisfaction scores by 10% by the end of this school year, as measured by our annual climate surveys. The specific actions: to launch a district-wide positive school climate initiative. You'll hear more about that as our principals present on this evening. Establishing monthly student and staff recognition programs starting in October to promote a positive school environment and to implement a peer program for students and support the mentoring program with our staff. We will be administering climate surveys in October of 2024 and May of 2025 to measure changes in the satisfaction levels. We believe that 10% is attainable as we employ consistent efforts. And our initial survey will be launched in October with our final evaluation in May of 2025. In the area of parental and family engagement, our goal is to increase parental and family engagement by 15% by the end of this school year, measured by participation in school events and parent-teacher conferences. The specific actions are to employ family liaisons to promote family engagement plans, to provide workshops and resources to support parents in their child's education, improve upon our communication strategies, newsletters, social media, to keep families informed and involved, and to work in tandem with the schools to empower our parent leaders. We will measure this by tracking attendance and participation rates at school events, parent-teacher conferences throughout the year. 15% is an attainable target as we engage and empower our parents and families, and we will monitor participation rates at each event with a review of assessment in June. In the area of finance and budgeting, our goal this year is to achieve a balanced budget for the 24-25 school year with a 2% reduction in non-essential expenditures while maintaining or improving student services. The specific actions include conducting a monthly review of the appropriation status reports to monitor expenditures, to pre-approve all overtime requests and monitor accordingly, to focus on reducing non-essential spending without compromising student programs. We will measure this through our monthly financial reports as we review them to track budget adherence and cost-saving measures. We believe that this 2% reduction is in non-essential expenditures is attainable. One, because it's good financial practice. And two, we will be carefully analyzing the budget as we strategically plan moving forward. And our monthly budget reviews with a financial report in June of 2025. I was particularly impressed by this sculpture that was shared by our transportation coordinator over the summer when we had our administrative retreat. It reads, "Humanity has never grown by creating barriers. Humanity and humility grows when we build bridges." If you look closely at the hands, each hand is connected to another hand. Some are closely connected, some are barely connected, some are embracing, some are clasping one another, and some have a really strong grip. Wherever you may find yourself in the process of building a bridge, we encourage you just to extend your hand so that we can find a mutual ground and grow and build together. Education is all a matter of building bridges, and that's none other than by our author, Ralph Ellison. At this time, I'm going to ask that you would receive Principal John Cardone, along with his assistant principals, Dr. Vineyard and Ms. Rodriguez, as we hear the SMART goals presented for the Amityville Memorial High School for this school year.
Thank you, everybody. First, I just want to let the Board of Education know and the community that I have an outstanding administrative team. Dr. Maria Vineyard and Miss Angelica Rodriguez have been an excellent addition to the high school. We've had a great start, and it's only the beginning, and really excited for this school year. So thank you so much. So academic goals, our goal is to raise passing rates and mastery scores by 5%. We're going to do this in a variety of ways. We already started Superintendent's Conference Day, where we analyzed Regents results. We had our John Lytle, who's our BARS specialist, came in and trained all of our teachers on how to use the BARS system. And we did some data analysis on Superintendent's Conference Day. And that was the beginning of what we're going to do this entire year. We are developing professional learning committees. And what those committees are going to do, they're going to analyze assessment data, discuss positive teaching practice, and we are going to support teachers in professional development. For example, our goals for this month are learning objectives, and we're providing professional development to the teachers to support them there, and that's what we are going to be looking at in our walkthroughs. School-wide culture and climate. The first thing is, in order for there to be a positive culture and climate, students and staff need to feel safe, right? So that's where culture starts. So we are constantly circulating the building. All of us are in the hallways every passing time. We're making sure there's no congregating. Students are moving along. We're doing hall sweeps every single period. We're surveying students, staff, community, stakeholders, the APTC, every stakeholder to see how they feel we can improve, because it's important to get the input from all stakeholders. We're developing a school theme collaboratively with staff. We know how important it is to be visible, because when students know that you care, they want to be in school. And we are encouraging our staff to be at these events also, because we know when there's that positive relationship, everything else starts to fall into place. So attendance is, again, that's related to safety and culture as well. And as we develop a positive culture, attendance is going to improve. We have reinforced our procedures with staff in terms of our attendance procedures. We are going to have automatic phone calls. We are going to clearly define our roles of our attendance teacher, and we need to utilize every resource we have to the greatest extent. I talked about enhancing school culture to increase attendance. We are in the process of developing WE teams, and those are support groups for students who are at risk. Because again, it doesn't matter what the role of the staff member is in the school, whether it's a teacher, monitor, security guard, just finding that person to connect with, we know is going to be helpful to all students. So behavior for students, we talked about some of these things already. Positive recognition is very important. We are asking our teachers to identify and provide certificates to one student per month in the class. It doesn't have to be the student who is the highest performer. It could be someone that we are seeing growth in, somebody that is doing well. I talked about the hall sweeps that we are already doing. We started those the second day of school. School culture. We are getting input from students. We just met with the APTC today, and we're going to do a winter dance Friday the 13th in December. The Nightmare Before Christmas Dance. So that's a pretty creative name. So we're going to be doing that in December. I hope you all come. We're going to immediately address all infractions because we know it's important to be consistent in terms of discipline, and we are increasing parent and guardian involvement. We are making initiative to make sure that we are posting on our Instagram pages. I am sending parent square messages. We're going to try to do those weekly. We also put in my message, we put the athletic schedule also, which I got some positive feedback on that, and on the attendance at those events. So we're going to keep doing that because it's important for the community to know what's going on, and we will continue to find ways to do that. Customer service goals. We know when anyone calls the school, if we don't transfer the call, it makes people happy, right? So especially when we talk about Parent Square and Infinite Campus, we wanted to make sure that our secretaries knew exactly how to help parents so we can help them on the spot. So our customer service goal is to make sure we have the information needed to have less transferring of calls. So if we can resolve the issue on the spot, that makes people happy, and that's what we're here for. And that's it for the high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Cardone and assistant principals. You're getting off to a great start. At this time, we are going to hear from Principal Rose Hutcherson, supported by Assistant Principals Paul Duguay and Ms. Denise Graham, as you hear about their SMART goals for the 24-25 school year.
Good evening and thank you. We too are off to a great start at Edmund W. Miles Middle School. We had a great superintendent conference day. We had an opportunity to meet with the staff, share our goals, and talk about how we're going to achieve them. So, yes. So Edmund W. Miles Middle School is focused on improving teaching and learning. We plan to increase student ELA and math performance on local and state assessments. We're looking at decreasing behavior that interrupts teaching and learning, improving school culture and climate, improving student attendance, and improving parent engagement.
Our goals is to increase student ELA performance on local and state assessments. Our goal is to achieve at least a 10% increase in reading proficiency by the end of the year. We recognize that we did see improvement during the 2024, end of the 2024 school year based on the iReady data, but we also see there's room for growth. We want to measure this through progress monitoring using the fall iReady data, which is going to be given next week. Then we have a mid-year in January and then one at the end of the year. We're going to measure the data, which tells a story about how our students perform. It will tell us where their strengths are. It will tell us where the areas that they need to improve. We will use target intervention, small group instruction, formative assessment, the iReady resources that provide individual lessons according to each student's results. We feel this is relevant to the academic success and readiness for rigor of grade level material and the standards. Our administrative team will actively monitor the implementation of the curriculum with fidelity and give feedback for lesson plans. Our school-wide culture and climate. Our goal at the middle school is to create an affirming and welcoming environment that celebrates the diversity of all students and staff. We feel that by giving a survey, we want to achieve 80% or higher for a favorable school climate rating. We know that by planning, by communication and collaboration, it is about building relationships with our students and staff. With planning, such as our block party at the end of August, with community leaders, with teachers, with the administration, we were able to hand out backpacks. We were able to meet the community, speak with them, and provide students with materials they needed to begin the school year successfully. We also have Unity Day that's coming up September 20th, where teachers and students will have the opportunity to do team building activities. We also have our Hispanic Heritage Month celebration on October 11th. Hope to see everyone there. It is during the school day, but this celebrates the unique diversity of our school population. We want to recognize our students' academic achievement, their honor roll for their attendance, and we want to also recognize teacher by giving out monthly awards. We feel all of this is relevant for a positive school climate, and we feel that it's essential for engagement and success. And now Mr. Duguay will continue with the math goals.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Similar to our ELA goals, we are looking to improve 10% proficiency, and we're going to be measuring this through our iReady diagnostics. Like Ms. Graham said, next week, iReady for math and reading, and we will cap off that week, like Ms. Graham said, with our Unity Day. We support our teachers with iReady through professional development throughout the year. Our teachers are able to study the data based upon their students in their classes. And we were also able to assign AIS classes, academic intervention supports, for students with the teacher that they have in their class, which gives that student a familiar face with their teacher that knows that student extremely well. We also have a reveal curriculum that is in its third year, where our teachers are continuing to receive professional development, and in turn, translating that into performance, not only on iReady, but our local assessments, and eventually for our 8th graders, take the algebra regents. So we are excited to improve by 10% this year, and we will be comparing our fall diagnostic to the spring diagnostic at the end of this school year. Student behavior at the middle school is a top priority. We want to promote a school community where students and staff work together to create a positive school community. And by the end of this school year, we look to decrease disruptive incidents by 20%. We're going to be looking at our discipline referrals, and we're also going to be looking about how we help our students deal with the pressures of middle school. It's a unique experience, the middle school experience, as everyone knows, especially as our 6th graders come into the building. We have a ruler program district-wide, and with many of our 6th graders take a ruler class where there is a curriculum provided by Yale, and our students are able to discuss their emotions and how to handle those emotions. And our goal is for our students to be able to do that every day, work with our staff, and find different ways and different outlets to have a better school day. In turn, this will improve their academic performance, their focus in classrooms, and we are excited for this school year and our students to have a wonderful year. Thank you. And now I'm going to turn it back to our principal.
Attendance. Regular attendance is the cornerstone of a positive learning environment and key to keeping students up, setting students up for success. It builds routines and discipline, which are important life skills. It also helps students to form strong relationships with their teachers and classmates. We aim to decrease the percentage of students with chronic absenteeism by 10%. The student support team and the attendance teacher will review students' attendance weekly. We will continue implementing attendance initiatives and providing parent workshops and support for families on the importance of attendance. Parent engagement. Parent participation is it's not just important, it is essential. It helps build a sense of community within the schools, strengthening relationships among parents, teachers, and school administrators. And this fosters a supportive environment that benefits everyone. Our collective goal is to increase parent involvement in school activities by 50%. With active participation and support, we can achieve this milestone. We know that increasing the enhanced communication channels, educating parents on curriculum and resources, and then seeking feedback from those parents about what it is that they need to support their scholar. We also know that we need to support our diverse families and meeting them and their needs. Thank you.
As you can see, the middle school is very focused in terms of achieving their targeted goals, along with our high school. Next, on the 25th of September, you will be hearing from Park Elementary, Northwest, and Northeast. As we have built cohesion and a vision and a driven focus for accomplishing the very best we can for our student scholars and families. Thank you for your time and attention on this evening.
Dr. Talbot, I'm just going to see if anyone has any questions, any board members. Is okay? Hold on a second. I'm going to go around. I'll start with Leslie.
Thank you for the wonderful presentations. Everything looks up and going. I think it was the high school, the peer program, implementing a peer program for students, what would that entail? Are we allowed to do that?
So if you're talking about peer programs, one of the conversations that we have been having and some of the exploration is around peer conflict mediation programs, activating our students to use their voice to bring out the best in their peers. So we're looking for mediation and training to implement that this year.
I guess keep on going. I have a couple more, and I really would love to see both schools back here in a few months to let us know and share and update us on the initiatives that they've taken, because it was a great presentation, both of them. Thank you.
Chris, do you have anything?
Yes, for the winter dance, I know it was just discussed today, so these details might not have been figured out yet, but will there be a requirement of the students to attend the dance? I know there has been at the high school functions in the past, the middle school functions.
You're developing the
Like,
criteria?
Are you talking about a grade requirement, Chris?
yeah, because wasn't there that requirement at the dances at the middle school last year?
Asked if you had a GPA below 85, you weren't allowed to go, which was very upsetting for a lot of parents and kids. So what's the status on that, right?
So the high school team is exploring the criteria, and as soon as it's refined, they'll share it with us.
Okay, thank you.
Wendy?
Thank you for the presentations. I'm glad to see that the teams are working out well, and I'm sure you're really excited the kids are back in class. I do have a couple of questions. I appreciate the detail of everything. Just to piggyback on that comment, I would really like to see that grade eligibility abolished. I think that kids struggle as it is. Some kids are behind the ball and they probably don't feel great about themselves. And then when they don't qualify for a dance, I really think that affects their self-esteem. And I don't think that's in the best interest of students. I would like you to, to review that and consider that. I have a couple of questions. I wanted to know first, if we could get these handouts maybe prior to the meeting, so we could go through it with the questions, because I'm jotting down as they're talking. A few things, about the surveys. I was really excited to hear about the surveys because that's something I'm really interested in. But I noticed it's staff and students, but parents are partners in their children's education. And I think it's really important to have parents participate in surveys too, so that they feel heard and validated. And maybe the kids might not participate, but I really think that parents would appreciate being pulled into that circle, because school community home is the greatest partnership. I wanted to know if there could be some sort of sharing of the surveys, not all the surveys, but maybe just compile something with us for the data so we could see what the feedback is also, because that would help us, right, in our decision making. As far as the academics, I saw in some of it, the middle school wanted to increase by 10% the scores, the high school by 5%. I don't know if it was district-wide 5%. I would have really loved to see you strive for a higher improvement than 5%, being we're so behind the ball. I think student achievement, it should be a top priority here. And I know you're going to work really hard, and we're really excited for you to work really hard. And I hope that you'll push through even past that and surpass that and come back to us with that. I would also love to see the academic data shared with the Board of Education at a meeting mid-year and end of year, so we could see the progress, and hopefully we could all celebrate together. And if there's any areas that need improvement, it could be identified and can be worked on. A couple of other things. Well, it was mentioned about ruler that it shows success, but I remember when ruler was presented at a board meeting and a trustee asked, what's the metric to measure the success? The presenter said, well, there's no metric. So I am concerned, we're continuing with this ruler, but I would like to see data that it is effective. We're continuing this. I think maybe this is the second or third year, I'm not sure, but I would love to see data to know that, is it really effective? Because we also have to evaluate the programs that we have. And then lastly, it said that we're looking with the goal to reduce non-essential expenditures by 2% in the budget. And that really caught my eye, because we already aren't going to have $2 million, the infusion that we had. We have 3 contract negotiations going on, and I guess I'm not really understanding how that's going to happen. We're looking to reduce it, but, I'm not sure if you want to clarify that.
So we're not looking to spend every dollar that we have. Our goal is in the next 4 years to be at 4% in our fund balance. And so we are monitoring our expenditures each year. So we don't want to spend the complete amount of money that we've allocated for the budget so that we can grow.
I think that's a great plan. I feel like that's something we should have been doing and, are continuing to do. I also don't want to shortchange any needs that, teachers or administrators need. So I am interested to see how that goes. Thank you.
Megan.
Hi, thank you for the presentations. I appreciate them. Some of my comments are going to piggyback on Leslie, Chris, and Wendy, but I'm going to say them. And I did have a hard time. There's so much going on, and we want to keep up, and we want to be effective in this role. So to have had the presentation ahead of time would help. So I too would love to see repeat updates from the administrative teams, because it's so nice to hear from you that are really living what's going on in the buildings. I've been asking probably since the day I was sworn in to see the iReady results. So I would love to see those baseline iReady results, because I'm assuming we're basing this 5% or 10% on next week. And so there would be no reason why that couldn't be shared. Or is that wrong? Are we basing it on last spring?
Yes, we're basing it on data that is in place now and the intentional goals. So next week, they are going to be taking the baseline, iReady, and you'll be hearing from them from the baseline to January. You'll hear from them after January. We can hear from last year's growth to this year's growth, which is what we talked about over the summer.
Yes. Can we please do that?
Yes.
I also, I guess, since I've been on since July, I was under the impression that the Board of Education would be setting goals for the superintendent, which would then trickle down to the goals for our administrative teams. So, you know, seeing this for the first time, I too, my mind went, 5% seems low. Why can't we do better? Because I think that we need to believe more that we can do better and these students can do better. So I would have pushed for a higher achievable goal for our improvement in our academics. Is this the first year that we're doing surveys?
I would say, I don't
First
remember.
year? I'm not sure what past practice has been.
Okay, so we didn't do them last year. So this is great. Okay, thank you. And I too would think it would be nice to share some summary of the feedback with the Board of Education to help in the decision-making process. I was happy to see them. I'm jumping around because my notes, again, with just taking notes while listening to multiple people. It was nice that the middle school was at least going for the 10% target on the improvement in the academics. There was mention of measuring family engagement and measuring attendance in school events. Like what's the vision for that? And what events are we measuring?
So schools have sign-in sheets for parents and guests when they attend their events in the evening. So they're charting the progress to reach more parents throughout the school year, and they can compare it to last year if they have that data, or can compare it to their baseline data from their first event throughout the course of the year.
Okay, I don't think I've ever signed in to a school event.
But this year, you
Okay,
signed
so this year we're gonna have some baselines. Okay.
Yes.
And that's not an APTC event. We're talking about a school event,
school events.
school event. The 2% reduction in non-essential expenditures was a big exclamation point in my mind because I didn't think we had any room for non-essential expenditures in our budget that we kicked back and forth and screamed to high heavens. We were cutting so many staff members. So what non-essential expenditures are in the budget? Are you talking about a general contingency across the entire budget?
Yes.
And
it
now
will
we're
be-
gonna try to not spend 2% of our budget.
Yes, we're definitely not aiming to spend the entire budget because our goal is to build our reserves. Our goal is to build our fund balance.
2% of $117 million or 2% of a different line? Or
2% of the voter approved budget.
$2.5 million? That's very interesting because we have 3 bargaining units that we're trying to negotiate with, and to see that there's potentially that much contingency in the budget is, it's the first time I'm hearing of it, I guess.
So if we are to do better by our bargaining units each year as we go, we know that this year is not going to be the best year that we can award them for their dedication and effort. Our goal is to increase that each year. And so in order to increase that each year, we must reduce our non-essential expenditures.
So we don't have it right now. You're saying that the goal is by the end of the year to have that.
Yes.
How are we gonna decide what is non-essential, like, as we go? I guess, what's an example of non-essential?
So an example of non-essential may be, so for example, let's take this example. Last year, teachers had previous years, teachers had the opportunity to hatch chickens in the classroom. So the district was underwriting that expense that may have been around $3,000. We are looking for ways to still give students experiences, but for the district to not have to fund all of the experiences that the students are receiving.
Oh, my goodness. Hold on a second.
So we're not gonna cut back on things. We're just, we're looking at other ways to
fund them.
To fund them.
Well, okay, that's very concerning to me. We have cut field trips across the board. And now you're talking about potentially cutting a learning experience that students look forward to in their classrooms, that their teachers are looking forward to as well. When is there going to be a discussion about that?
You asked for an example. And I
Okay.
gave you an example that we employed
Maybe,
last
hopefully
year.
that was a bad example.
It was a real example that transpired last year.
But I think just for my clarification, we're not, just say, for example, give an example that you just provided to us as a board. If you're not able to find any additional fundings, just for an example that you gave, you're not going to take that away. You're just saying that we're going to look to see if there's another way to fund it. If we're able to fund it differently, then we can use that money to fund it differently. If not, that experience for the kids will still be there. It's not going to be taken away. That's how I'm understanding it.
Well, let's back it up even further.
Okay.
So in meeting with our administrators and analyzing the curriculum, we are not to be surprised by pop-up major expenditures. So we will know about things ahead of time. We are having exploratory conversations on how they can properly be funded. If it is something that we can support, if it is something that a grant can support, if there's something that a donation can support. So we are looking to support student programs in creative way, as many creative ways as we can through funding sources.
So the money's there to do, just for my clarifications, because the money's there for these, whatever program or whatever it may be. But all you're looking to do is to see if there's another method to get the funding. So instead of taking out of the budget, if someone says, if you apply for a grant, you apply for the grant, and then the grant would cover that particular event. So you're not gonna not do it. You're just looking for another source of funding for it.
Alternative funding sources, if it's already approved.
Okay.
But do you have a list of different things that you're looking for alternative funding
Partial,
for?
and we're continuing to meet with administrators to flush it out for the
Okay, 'cause
year.
I really don't want anything that, touches kids to be
Right.
cut anymore. I mean, they've already suffered so much with losses.
Right. I'm sorry, Megan, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just need to get clarification. So.
Okay, because that's not how I read this goal that's on the slide. And I think that that probably goes back to the need for the Board of Education to have set the goals with the superintendent before the school year started. So this, I'm upset about it, and I don't think that, I hope that we continue this conversation. I did want to know about the restorative circles. I think it was in the high school presentation. And I too wrote down, how do we measure the ruler program? Because it doesn't seem like an attainable anything to measure against from my perspective. So is there a new way to measure the ruler program this year?
Because it is such an effective program, we are under discussion about the impact that it has had over the course of 3 years and how we can best measure the effects of it this year.
Can you provide data on that so that we can review it if we want to continue with it?
For this year, data from this year,
Well, if you're implementing it this year, yeah, I would like the data, or even last year, like, I'm concerned that if it's not effective and we just keep rolling over programs, if this program doesn't work, like, let's, maybe invest in something else. It's not about eliminating programs, it's about getting the most effective programs.
we concur.
Thank
So
you so
just-
much.
Just a quick question for the ruler program, and not to get off track, but just very quickly. What are the expenses that are still connected with this ruler program? That's the question, I think. Not right now, but maybe that would help us as a board to let us know if there are any still existing expenses connected to the ruler program.
Sure.
Carol? And then,
Yes, I just want to
I'm
comment
sorry, were you
on
done?
our, administrative teams and the evidence of team building and collaboration, and I really thank you for that. I do have a question from the middle school. We know that parent involvement historically has been a huge issue in Amityville. You mentioned improving parent involvement by 50%. That's a really big number. Could you be a little bit more specific as to how that would roll out?
Principal Hutchinson, you have any thoughts on how you want to kind of respond to the 50% increase in parental engagement?
So you may have to come to the mic. Sorry.
One of the things that we're working on is administering surveys to parents to see what they're interested in and then meeting their needs. The other thing we're doing is we're at every event in the middle school, you sign in for that event. And we're going to use our communication channels to get information out to parents more frequently about things that's going on in the middle school.
But what type of events would you plan, to encourage more parent involvement?
So we have our regular events, back to school night, parent teacher conferences, but we also host parent workshops every month through ENL. So we want to encourage parents to come to those workshops. We also do the parent workshops. And then, for example, we're having Unity Day. And from that, we're also going to communicate, to parents about Unity Day. While they're not invited because it's during the school day, but we would like to do some Unity Day type events in the evening so that we can connect teachers, parents, and students.
Thank you.
Ouch, Caroline.
Hello, thank you again for the presentations, and I'm last, so a lot of what I would have asked has already been discussed, but yes, the 2% was the first thing to jump out at me because it sounds great, and my question would have been, how is non-essential defined? Whether it's 2% of the overall budget on a case-by-case basis, sounds like we've understand that still needs to be hashed out. What was proposed sounds great. So obviously follow up, whether it happens a few weeks or months from now, that would be to be expected. Question for Mr. Cardone about the calls to the parents who are absent, of children who are absent. Is that new? That wasn't being done already?
You just have to come to the mic again,
Sorry.
sorry.
The prior system last year was not able to make the automatic calls. And right now our technology department is working on, we have a new program, Workflow with Infinite Campus. So they are working on setting that up for the automatic calls this year.
Okay, and are you confident that you have all the right phone numbers for the parents? Like, what's the intake to make sure that?
Well, based on the data in Parent Square, I'm seeing a lot of success to the numbers in Parent Square.
Okay,
And that's related to Infinite Campus. So I think it's going to be effective.
so if the data is accurate in Parent Square and Infinite Campus, then it's gonna
Yeah,
filter through.
they talk, so.
Okay, and wouldn't the same thing go for the middle school and all schools? If it's, sounds great, why not the whole district?
Thank you, Mr. Cardone. It may have not been specifically mentioned, but it's employed as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Hold on a second, can I just jump in there? No, go ahead.
Oh, I just have one thing. I know I brought up about this middle school dance. I really would like you to let the Board of Education know what the decision is. If they're going to take off that eligibility for academic performance, it's really, really concerning to me. If you could let us know what the outcome is. Thank you.
Right, so thank you so much for both of the administrative teams at the high school and the middle school for a very informative presentation to the Board of Education. Most of my questions have already been answered. I do have one, the goals that you mentioned, Dr. Talbot, in the beginning, these are goals that you established that will be utilized with administrators in each of the buildings. We, as a Board of Education, still need to establish goals with you collaboratively.
My goals can certainly evolve, but as an administrative team around our district priorities, we focused on academics, culture and climate, parental involvement, customer service, ensuring that our student, scholars, and families are receiving timely communications and courteous replies and support. They did not formulate a fiscal goal. So in terms of our coherence and to achieve the mission that I opened the presentation with, that is our focus. I know that the board establishes district goals, which are separate from the superintendent goals, but my goals are certainly yielded to any feedback from the Board of Education.
Okay, so so as we move forward to set our goals in collaboration with you as the superintendent, then if there's any goals that are here that we would like to modify, because we have to establish the goals in collaboration with you and then determine what will be the measures that they're going to be assessed. So it's something that we do have to do and do sooner than later. That's one. And then two, in regards to the surveys, I know that I think at the high school said there was going to be a survey for students, staff, and I think it said community. So maybe I was wrong, but when it said community, I thought that community included parents. So if that means parents as well, then that may need to be a little bit more defined. But other than that, I had nothing else because everyone else, I gave the other board members an opportunity to speak first. So just one more question. Let's wrap it up. So therefore we can go
I
forward.
just want to clarify, there's two different things. There's district goals that we work on with the superintendent collaboratively, and then the Board of Education does the superintendent evaluation and imposes goals on the superintendent. So that's two different things.
No, the goals that the superintendent, the goals that the superintendent is going to be evaluated on is done in collaboration with the superintendent, because the superintendent has to be able to agree on those goals along with how it's going to be measured. So that's why there's one thing that I feel that, just to get sidetracked, that's why we need someone to come in from this, because in reading everything and reviewing the videos, it's not something that we just do by ourselves and say that these are the goals that he or she as a superintendent has to follow and that these are how it's going to be measured. It's a collaboration that's done together.
It's so odd to me that somebody that has such longevity, I mean, if you've done it before, it's the superintendent, the Board of Education puts goals on the superintendent, the district goals are in collaboration. It's really surprising.
So it's not surprising. I'm not going to hash the thing. I'll be happy to have NISBA come in to do the conversations. Therefore, everyone will be well informed on what we have to
I
do.
think that's a conversation for the entire board to make. The board president has one vote like everybody else.
I said it's up to the board to make a decision to have NISBA come in to do the superintendent evaluation. So let's move forward and we can have this discussion as we go forward. So thank you so much, Dr. Talbot.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank the administrative teams, our faculty staff for tonight's presentation and embracing where we're going as a district. Thank you, board, for your attention.
Thank you. Any community input on non-agenda item? I mean, on agenda items? I'm sorry.
Robert Playa.
Excuse me, you can move the mic down if you like.
Robert Playa. 3B, 10, 11, and 12. Is Mr., and I have no idea who Mr. Abadi is. Is he a full-time teacher?
Yes.
What does he teach?
He's music, band director.
So
Yeah,
he-
music.
he's
He
going
does-
to be the AV coordinator. He's going to be the band director. He's going to be the stage advisory director, and he's also a full-time teacher. Has anybody else applied for these positions?
Mr. Abate was the sole applicant for all three positions.
And he'll be able to handle all of that.
Yes.
Good luck.
Any other questions on agenda items from the community? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move forward with the agenda. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2A1 to 2A4, please?
Motion.
Second.
Wendy Kneshel is first, Caroline Fan is second. Any questions regarding any of these items?
No.
Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2C1?
Yeah, motion.
Second.
Wendy Kneshel is first, Carol Seehofer is second. Any questions regarding this agenda item?
No.
Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. We're going to go to the September 25th agenda for review.
No, I'm not.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't mind, yeah. So we're on the September 25th agenda. So at this point in time, it has down here under 2C1 through 5, different appointments. The Board of Education is in the process of, we did request for proposals. They have come back, and the Board of Education will be in the process of interviewing for these different positions, which is the school attorney, for general counsel, labor counsel, external and internal district auditor, and claims auditor.
And we would appoint that night.
We would appoint them on that night, yes. The interviews will be taking place on Monday, September 16th. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, about the September 25th agenda, I had mentioned I would like a facilities report. It's just a very casual few-minute report at the end, you know, where new business and old business is, where it says reports, maybe just facilities. It doesn't have to be a presentation. It doesn't have to be anything long, but maybe Mr. Galena can just update us on any work that he's done or his crew has done in the district, just to keep us apprised of the building and maintenance.
So thank you for that comment. I'll continue down. So we'll make it, we've noted that for old business at the end.
No, I'm asking if it could be added as a report, like a D, you know,
mean as a
facilities report.
presentation?
No, it absolutely does not need to be a presentation. Just, I'm saying a few minutes for Mr. Galena to stand up in a meeting and say, whatever it is, you know, we put new doors on the gym doors or something, just to give us at regular meetings, just like a brief update of anything. I mean, very casual, few minutes of just to let us know, nothing long. Either he has a report, he doesn't have any report, anything noteworthy.
So as a Board of Education, does everyone want to have some type of report that will come from him on a monthly basis or as needed?
Yes.
So if it's something, I would say as needed, you know what I mean? If there's no report, then she can let us know that there'll be no report.
Yeah, he could just say, I don't have anything.
All right, so any questions on agenda item 3B1 through 51?
Wait, we didn't vote.
Huh? No,
No.
I'm still on September 25th.
Okay.
So any questions on agenda items 3B1 through 3B51? I'm assuming that the TBD will all be provided to us, Dr. Talbot, for the leaders of tomorrow. Okay. Any other questions regarding these agenda items at all? Right, so going to business 3C1 through 9. Just for clarification, I thought these items were already that, like the athletic trainer, the district position, that we already approved them at the reorganization meeting.
No, we didn't.
We didn't do the position?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, so any other questions regarding this? So there
No,
were-
can I just make a comment? Because we did do an agenda setting meeting for prior to this meeting, so it would have been helpful to have the September 25th agenda
agree.
in that meeting. So.
And we'll get the treasurer's report. And 3D1, any questions about the finance report? And the conferences, any questions about the conferences? If the board has any questions that they have about these items, we got the agenda on Friday, but if there's any additional questions, please review it and email it to Dr. Talbot in the board. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the September 11th agenda. Can I do agenda items 3A1 through 3 altogether, or does anyone need it to be done separately? Seeing none, can I have a motion for agenda items 3A1 through A3, please?
So moved.
Second.
Carol Seehoff is first, Winnie Canestro is second. Any comments about any of these agenda items?
Can I just question 3A3? I just want to clarify that there's no stipend associated with those appointments.
No, there is not.
Okay. Thank you. That goes to my comment of just wondering why were these interim and why would we not just appoint these DASA coordinators to the principals as noted for the full year? As we have these two side letter agreements of removing stipends or, extras from the AAA. It was kind of like, that was where my thought process was in questioning that, but you're confirming that there is no stipend associated with the DASA coordinator.
No. And I believe the administrators did not want it as a permanent thing to do, so I believe that they're going to look to the principals are going to appoint a designee, so it's not a posting for it, so that's why it's listed as interim. Because they're not going to do it for the entire year, they're going to recommend someone for that appointment.
Right, okay.
So when would we have those recommendations and then vote on those recommendations?
The plan is to have those for the October 23rd meeting.
Okay.
Can I do agenda items 3B, I'm sorry, all those in favor for 3A1 to A3?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Right. Can I do agenda items 3B1 through 3 together first?
Sure, motion.
Second.
Winnie Canestro is first. Megan Messman is second. Any questions regarding any of these agenda items?
No.
Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion to table agenda item 3B4?
Motion.
I don't know who said it first. All right, I'll just do Winnie Canestro first. Carol Seehoff is second, right? All those in favor to table?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. I'm gonna do agenda item 3B5. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3B5, please?
Motion.
Second.
I think that was Caroline Fanning and Chris Nairn, right? So I'm going to read the resolution. Be resolved upon recommendation of Superintendent Dr. Gina Talbot that the Board of Education approves the appointment of the following individual as indicated. Kenneth Cord, probationary assistant principal at Edmond Middle Miles School. Again, effective date is September the 16th, 2024. Probationary period is September the 16th, 2024 to September the 15th, 2028, with a rate of compensation of $134,000 per year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations. Mr. Cord.
Congratulations.
And I do agenda items 3B6 through 26 altogether, or does anyone need anything to be done separately? Can I have a motion for agenda?
So moved.
Hold on, 3B6 through 26, right? Leslie Kretz is first.
Second.
Carol Seehoff is second. Any questions regarding any of these agenda items?
Can I just make a comment on 10 through 12? I know the community member already spoke to it. But we did discuss internally, you know, if there was anybody else for any one of those three roles, it's nice to, share the wealth and maybe bring somebody else up into one of those positions. So I guess for the time being, we're hearing that this is the only, member interested in these positions.
And I think the other thing to this individual for, I think, two of the positions, maybe definitely one, the AV coordinator, the person that did do it last year has left the district. So this individual was working underneath him and so was very familiar with the process. So one of the things that we did speak about was the possibility, because it's not about the person, it's about the position. That if there's a possibility that there can be other individuals that can be mentored, so therefore they have the ability to serve in this capacity, so there won't be one person that's trying to do all three roles.
But I just also want to put Mr. Klein's concerns at ease because this person is very well equipped at handling all three of these positions.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Have a motion for agenda item 3E1 through 4, please.
So moved.
Second.
Wendy Kneshels first, Chris Neer in a second. Legal, all these contracts have been reviewed and approved. Just double checking. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion
Aye.
carries, 7-0. All right, old business. We're up to, we have Northeast Leaders of Tomorrow mascot and energy performance contract. So I will start, where did I start? I started on this, that, and before. So Caroline, I'll start with you. Any comments about Northeast Elementary School Leaders Tomorrow? No, start with Northeast. Any comments you have about Northeast?
Just the general concern that we're operating at a deficit and we need to know what the game plan is. I understand that the grant that we have only funds 85 students, but we are over-enrolled, so that is of concern. And I think we need to understand what's the plan for Northeast, a presentation, data, how are we going to get the funding? Is it
Go ahead, Dr.
We recently had a meeting with the Office of Early Learning with the New York State Department because we wanted to get accurate data around the cost per pupil rate, as well as the number of students who are funded in our UPK grant. And so our funding source for our UPK grant amount rather for the 22-23 school year and continuing is $582,000 for 85.5 students. That puts us at a per pupil rate of $6,812 approximately per pupil. We are presently staffed at 126 pre-K students at our Northeast school. There is another meeting taking place tomorrow between the business office, the consultant, and Northeast administration to discuss some of the programs that they have been exploring under 4410 and some of the next steps that must be taken around raising funds, garnering revenue for the building. So that's where we are in terms of the update for Northeast.
All right. Anything else, Carol? Did you want to? Caroline, sorry.
I'm processing.
Okay. So I have a question too, but Carol, go ahead.
That's exactly what I was going to ask about the vision for Northeast, but it's been answered. Thank you.
I think the only question that I do have is that we're not allowed to turn any students away. So even though we're funded for 85, there's 126. So in our budget, we have the ability to, how will that affect us financially with the additional students? That's my question. Did it mean a different additional class? Did it mean increase in class sizes?
Well, as we learned more, because we were The allocations for UPK was set up in 1988. And so we were pushing back on the allocations that we were getting because we were under the understanding, based upon the formula that had been followed, is that we were able to fund 126 students. So this is recent information as of August 29th, that we are actually being funded for 85.5 students full time. Then we further explored options for expansion grants, any opportunities of funding that is available. The feedback is that New York State is well aware that it costs more to operate your UPK program than what the grant supplies. And so therefore, all expansion opportunities have expired, and they are moving forward with legislation and are under discussion about increasing allocations to schools. But that will not be a decision made in the near future. Ms. Buatsi, that was my conclusion of our conversation. Do you concur?
Yes.
Okay. Megan, anything else for Northeast? Any question about Northeast?
Yes, I had asked for this on the agenda, so I was hoping for Dr. Talbot to speak to that recent finding. I want to be transparent with the community, so it's not a surprise when hard decisions have to be made. Based on the numbers that you're saying now, Dr. Talbot, it seems like we're spending double per student than what the state is allocating. Something on the order of $12,000 per student, as opposed to what you noted as less than $7,000 per student. Lisa, you just said we can't turn away anybody for UPK.
That was my question. Can we?
I thought
Can
that
we-
many districts do a lottery system for UPK.
Yes, a lottery system is required for UPK, and each district should be conducting a lottery when you have more students signed up than what you can accommodate. There was no need for us to do a lottery at the time that school started because we did not exceed the 126 students that we were under the understanding that we were allowed to serve.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure, sure.
So just for my clarification, so we thought that we were able to, we thought we were allocated for 126 students. So therefore, when the numbers went above the 85.5, we were okay. But then you found out, at the end of August, that it wasn't 126 students, it was 85.5 students.
Yes.
But at that point in time, those 126 students had already gotten notification that they will be allowed to start the pre-K program?
They were registered already and enrolled.
All right, thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead, Megan.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. We do have $1.6 million budgeted, I think, right? Because we had the $2 million infusion. And $1.6 million of that has been allocated to Northeast. So if we have a $600,000 grant, we could have had $1 million on the table for negotiations. Another thing that I was hoping that could be discussed based on some feedback from community members is why does Northeast start 2 weeks later than the other buildings? So, Dr. Talbot, if you could expand on that.
Sure.
Thank you.
So during the 2 weeks that the teachers are present and the students are not, teachers are screening students for readiness skills with the Brigands. Our Northeast staff do a beautiful outreach, and they visit the homes and they spend time getting to know the families and introducing themselves to families during the 2-week period prior to the students arriving. In addition, most districts do have a delayed arrival and start for their pre-K students, particularly those who ride buses. You want to make sure that your buses are on schedule and everything is running well before putting the 4-year-olds on the bus so that things are in order. And those are pretty much the three primary reasons why we start later than the K through 12 program.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask one question for Wendy, just for clarification, Dr. Talbot, and Megan, please correct me if I'm wrong. Megan had stated that the $1.6 million that we received is going towards Northwest, but Northeast, sorry, but it costs $582,000. We get roughly $600,000 in the grant. Just for clarification purposes for all of us, if we're getting $600,000 for the grant, is that added to the 1.6 to make it 2.2 in order to operate that building? Just so there's a better understanding.
That means that we have approximately $600,000 to run a $1.6 million program.
Okay, so actually wait, say it again. So we have $600,000 that
We're
can-
allocated from the State Department
right.
close to $600,000 to run our pre-K program.
Right, but then if I understood Megan's question correctly, if we got $600,000 from the state, well, from the grant, but we got $1.6 million, right? So the question is this, is that, if I'm understanding you correctly, if we got $1.6 million from the state, we got $600,000 grant, isn't it really $2.2 million that we're getting to operate the district, to operate the pre-K program?
That is accurate. Yes, 2.2.
So we need $2.2 million to operate the pre-K program over at Northeast. So if we did not get the 1.6 million, then we would not been able to operate the pre-K program at Northeast?
Yes.
That's why I had to get
No,
clarification.
thank you for the clarification. So it's actually more than we spend per student then, because I based my double the price per student on the $1.6 million operating budget for Northeast.
So
And
thank
now
you,
you're saying
Megan.
it's really a
That-
$2.2
yeah,
million
that-
operating budget.
That
for
is
Northeast.
clarifying. So the $1.6 million would come
Yeah.
from our general budget if we had not gotten that bullet grant from the Assemblywoman.
Yes, that's true.
Correct.
Wendy?
I had that we had 135 students enrolled. I don't know if that came through an email or something. Do we have 135 students enrolled?
That includes the Strive students, but of the 135, 126 are pre-K.
Okay, understood. Sure, I have a few questions. In January, State Ed sends a letter based on the last year's enrollment of how many kids are anticipated to be funded. Where is that letter? We should have known. That's how districts know how much to anticipate and estimate how many we're going to cover. Where is our letter? Okay.
I'm not mindful of receiving a letter for a number of students. We receive an allocation, and I'm not sure if that comes in January.
Yeah, I've confirmed it with other business officials that it comes in January. So my concern is that other districts do it's funny, when I moved here, I remember coming to these meetings going, I can't believe we give pre-K to every student. I'm like, this is the most amazing thing I ever heard because I've never heard it before. And I'm like, this is such a win for the district. I can't believe it. But now we're finding out, not everybody's funded, which, and especially in our predicament, is an issue here. So, we're going to have to do a lottery like everybody else. And now we're down and the money's, going to Northeast for these students, and it can't be spread across to other districts or field trips or negotiations or anything else. It's kind of tied to this right now. So that is what it is right now. But we're going to have to do a lottery moving forward or figure out if we can even move forward, given that we're not going to have this $2 million infusion. The 2-week delay is concerning for a few reasons. Now more than ever, you have parents are working, these childcare issues, not starting on time becomes burdensome. And while the visits are nice, like a perk, I don't know that it's necessary. I think parents would much more appreciate their kid in school. So I think that that should be evaluated and maybe cut back on. As far as screening, other districts do the screening before school starts. I'm not sure why we can't, so that the children can start on time as the rest of the district with siblings. And again, you know, I think the curriculum is they have to have 180 days instruction time, even on universal pre-K.
I think she's asking that question. For universal pre-K, do they have to have 180
My
days?
understanding there has to be, the goal is 180 days instructional time, even on pre-K, because there's a curriculum that comes with universal pre-K.
So we can certainly confirm the information regarding the necessity to do the 2-week delay. I believe the 2-week delay has been a long-standing practice here. And there was a time when students did come during the summer, and teachers were paid to screen the students. And I believe in lieu of the payment over the summer, teachers were asked to utilize the 2-week delay to screen the students. But we hear your concerns.
Yeah, and I'm not always a fan of it's always been done this way. I always feel like there's room for improvement in anything that we do. And, I'm always looking for effectiveness. I'm always looking for the benefit of the student, the benefit to the families. And I think children in school for those, immediately would be helpful. And the last piece to this is, I would like to know about grant writing. Amityville could really benefit from a lot of grants and really could almost benefit from a full-time grant writer. I would like to know who is grant writing for us, and we should be applying to everything. We have no money. We should be applying to everything. So who's doing that?
So as of now, we pretty much are operating with our title grants. The assistant superintendent is responsible for the grants in the district. And we do explore the competitive grant website, and we have not found any at this point that have an upcoming date that we would qualify for.
So how that works is what you just constantly are looking at it and then applying, and you feel like that's something that you can handle in your job, but you feel like there's too much that you would maybe need to hire somebody else. I'm just trying to get an understanding of how many grants we're applying to and the workload that goes with that.
I think we all would love to get a grant writer. So I think what we also, I'll let her answer, but I think also what we also need to look at is how are we going to pay for that grant writer too. So
I do think they do it through BOCES too, where you get money back, but I
but
would
that's
like
what-
to,
That's what we need to find out.
yeah.
So we do have the support of a grant writer through BOCES. But it depends on the scope of the grant, what the work involved is, and then there's a skeleton that you would use for all of them. So it's a matter initially of looking at whether the demographics of our district and our needs meet
The
or
the
match,
requirement.
right? And then if it's a large scale grant that requires a lot of monitoring, what the impact on that would be for our district.
Okay, thank you. I'm done, thank you.
Chris, anything on Northeast at all?
No, I don't know.
Leslie, anything on Northeast? So I'm going to go down the rest of the list. Just as a reminder to the board, we have to go back into executive session to discuss some additional matters. So I'm going to ask with the other old business items if we can make our comments brief, so therefore we can take input from the community so we can get back into executive session. Chris, I'm going to start with you. Anything about leaders tomorrow that you have any comments on?
Nothing.
Wendy, anything for leaders tomorrow you have a comment on?
Did you skip?
I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. We will have by the next meeting, all the listings of the teachers for leaders of tomorrow.
Okay. Wendy, anything with leaders tomorrow?
Yes, briefly. I wanted to bring this up. I know that we have a new director, and I've gotten some feedback from parents that the summer program was better than the year program. I know it was a different director. And some of the requirements were they were supposed to be surveys to students and staff throughout the year, which I don't think happened. I think it happened after it was over. And that it's based on attendance. I think it has to be 500 students. I did ask for the attendance records and I was told there was no records. So I am asking for greater oversight for this. Parents have been saying like it starts out really strong. There's different selections that they can make, program selections, and it kind of fades off and there's not consistency in the program, where sometimes some classes may end up going in the playground or watching a movie or playing with blocks, and then the attendance falls off. So that's the concern, especially if this grant is based on attendance. So I am asking, and I know that we had discussed this briefly before, but for 700,000, almost $700,000 grant, this should be the most phenomenal program in the whole world. It's such an amazing opportunity for us. And I just want to make sure that we build it up and we monitor it and we create it for what it is, and that we create a paper trail, because there is, there needs to be improvement on a paper trail in this district. The fact that there's supposed to be these records and it's based on this and there are no records is concerning. So I know it's a new director. I'm hopeful that she will rise to the occasion on this. It will be better than it was. But I am asking to monitor this more, and perhaps even a presentation, a brief presentation at some point to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan, anything additional?
Not so much additional. Wendy did a great job reiterating that the inconsistency of the feedback of the program, the inconsistency of the delivery, the low attendance as the year went on. And hopefully, and I would love to see a presentation as well, because I understand that the program is being revamped under a new director now. So that's a hope for an improvement this year. And then maybe there could be academic intervention tied in to the program goals.
Okay. Carol and Caroline, do you have anything new to add to what has already been mentioned?
No.
I would just ask that an explicit message go out to the parents to announce this is Leaders of Tomorrow 2.0, because a lot of parents lost interest, and probably if they don't know it's a new leadership, we'll just toss that piece of paper that comes home in the scrap pile. So let them know that to expect more and to give the feedback.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the mascot. I'll start. Go ahead.
Just a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Very quickly, I'll ask Ms. Stevens if she would just give the board a brief update on some of the preliminary plans for Leaders of Tomorrow for this school year.
So Dr. Impagliazzo and I have been meeting weekly. We just finished interviewing site coordinators. We did set expectations for them as far as oversight when we met with them, to let them know we'll be making decisions and recommendations for board approval by the end of this week on those site coordinators. When we spoke to them, we did take the feedback that we have heard from the board and the community and the building administrators about the areas in which we need to improve. We are planning orientation sessions where expectations for teachers are outlined as well, so that our concerns about students who are not following the program that they signed up for are addressed as well. We did post only for the first part of the school year, so the first session's going to end in December. It gives us an opportunity to look at what's working and what's not working before we set the programs for the spring. But it also gives the opportunity for students to figure out what they're interested in, so that they don't lose interest in the programs. And then as far as remarketing it to families, Dr. I and I have spoken about a plan for marketing it, which includes social media outreach, but also Dr. I will be attending the back to school nights that are in the next 2 weeks to speak to parents personally about what we're going to be rolling out.
Thank you so much.
Great, thanks.
Can I just ask one question?
Okay, go ahead.
I understood that Leaders of Tomorrow needed to start in October. So is it with the grants requirements, you're allowed to take a break and?
There
No.
won't be a break, but the ability to end that session, we'll begin planning for the next session in early December so that we're ready to go in
And just
January.
switch. Okay. All right, great. Thank you so much.
Can I ask one question?
No.
Um, did you have to, like last year, did Dr. Lang include paperwork and attendance and everything that had to go back? So they could check that you did do it, you kept everything in alignment? I mean, I don't understand how we got another grant if we didn't do all the right things.
So I can only speak to the fact that Dr. Lang did work with the Office of Children and Family Services who
Okay.
hold the grant.
Mhm.
And I know Dr. Pagliazzo came in to help. I do know that we spoke to them about the circumstances of our director being ill, so they may have made an
Okay,
exception for us.
thank you, thank you.
We're up to the mascot. So for the mascot, I'm going to start it out. For the mascot, we had a presentation from the attorney who is doing the lawsuit for the mascot. He gave us an update at our last meeting in executive session. I think we're at the point now as a board to either make the decision to, this is just my opinion, to stay in, or to stay in until we reach the, or close to the cap of what we have said that we were going to spend for the legal, for the lawsuit. And I believe the cap was roughly about $17,000, I think, for the lawsuit for the mascot, if I remember correctly. I know it wasn't above 20. What do you say, 18, 17, 18, roughly about, but I think we've spent so far about $11,000.
26,000.
20 something thousand, yes.
So if we have surpassed it, then we as a board, we had said we only were going to go up to a certain amount. So if we have surpassed it, then as a board, we have to make that decision if we're going to stop. Because if we continue on, the question is, how much more are we going to be charged to be part of the lawsuit? I know money has been put aside to remove the imagery in different places in the schools and whatnot, bleachers and whatnot. But I know it's going to take more money to remove everything, replace uniforms and everything like that. So the question, and this is something that Megan had asked to be placed on the agenda for discussion on the old business. So is this something that we want to continue to be a part of, or as a board, we're going to say we're out? So I'll go to Megan first and then.
Can I just build a little bit on what we learned from the lawyer, right? So he presented the case and as to why he thought we were in a home run case. He presented that an upstate New York district with the Warrior name is being allowed to keep the Warrior name. But lo and behold, that district has Seneca Nation approval to keep the Warrior name. So we don't have Seneca Nation approval to keep the Warrior name.
We have no approval.
No approval. He actually happens to be a Board of Education trustee in a different district. So on the side, I'm just going, oh, did this district change their mascot? And again, lo and behold, that district also decided to comply with what the state was saying and they changed their mascot. So it was a not very strong case, in my opinion. And he also said that we could be in this through the spring and not have an outcome. So we would be continuing to pay for attorney fees and memos and feedback and waiting. And meanwhile, the state wants us to have the mascot imagery changed by the end of the year. But I think that at one point we talked about getting extension for the end of the year.
I think yes, but so far we have not heard back whether or not we were successful in doing that.
Yeah. So it was interesting, since being on the board, it's the first I learned more about it. I remember the board saying, I thought it was, when I was at a meeting, it was 18,000, but 17, 18, same thing. Yeah. But we were told that we spent 9,000, but we've since seen the invoices that total about 23,000 or just thereabouts. So I feel like the commitment to the community to not spend above the cap wasn't met. We've already exceeded that. We don't have money. We have 3 units we're trying to negotiate with. I feel like it's a losing battle. He referenced the Warrior upstate. We don't match that criteria. There were just 3 more districts that complied with the name. And I feel like we're in a losing lawsuit. Like everybody's complying. Sometimes you got to lick your wounds and just kind of move on. And he had mentioned that there's going to be some sort of hearing in November, but then there might be another hearing. The results wouldn't come into late spring. And we're really pushing the envelope by even waiting. And we just keep dumping the money into this. And I don't think it's in the best interest of the taxpayers to continue this.
Right, so as a board, I think if there's anyone else does anyone feel that they want to continue on with the lawsuit? That's the question, because if no one wants to continue on, then as a board, we just need to make that decision that we don't want to. So first question, does anyone want to continue on with the lawsuit? That's the question, number one. So I see Caroline and Chris wants to say something. So I saw Chris grab the mic first. Go ahead, Chris.
Just think it's important that the community knows that should we decide to drop out of this, and then the school districts that remain in the lawsuit, if they are able to keep their mascots, since we dropped out, we would not be able to
Keep going.
kind of lump in with them. We would just be stuck on our own, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Correct.
And I would hope that we look at cost-effective ways to remove the mascot instead of wiping out the bleachers and just and the gym floor, just looking at ways to scrape the logo off and just resurface it and other things like that.
Can they share with the board before they start any removal of it? Because I know there was a presentation to remove the whole floor, then we took the tour and we realized it could probably be sanded. So I am concerned. I don't want them to do work without like running it by us for us to make sure that it is cost effective, as Chris had said.
All right, Caroline, do you have anything additional to add?
The lawyer in the presentation said it would cost us another 10 to 25 grand to continue with the lawsuit. And to me, that's the quintessential non-essential item.
Okay. Carol or Leslie, anything additional?
No.
Right.
I
So-
hate to do that. I hate to see it go, but it's
I
time.
hate to see
It's
it go
time.
as
It,
also.
it does not define the district.
Yeah, not at all. You're right.
All right, so what I'm
Absolutely.
hearing is that at this point in time, that the Board of Education wants to come out of the lawsuit. So do I have to do a official vote on this, legal?
I would suggest maybe we put together a resolution that.
Okay. Just bring your mic closer.
Would you consider, I could put something together now, or would you consider it at your next meeting? Are you meeting next
Are
week?
you okay to do it on the 25th, everyone, to make it part of the?
Does it cost us money?
Well,
No.
They're
I
moving.
would contact.
No, but
I
the
would
law
con-
firm that's already working on this.
Correct.
That's what we need to find out.
I would contact the attorney and let him know you're interested in withdrawing. Please stop any work on the case. And then officially withdraw with
Okay.
the appropriate resolution.
On
I
the
just want to make sure
25th?
I put it together
On the
correctly.
25th.
On the 25th?
Yes.
So you'll unofficially withdraw us
Yes.
now? Okay.
I'm going to text him now.
Okay, and the last thing is the energy performance contract, right? So, Carol, I haven't started with you yet. Do you have anything you want to say about the energy
I
performance?
really don't. We have discussed it many times over.
Right, so I think I'm now up to Wendy going next.
Megan happens to do this for a living, so I'm going to defer to her. I think it's important to have the conversation in public. While there have been discussions behind closed doors, I think it's important, you know, as new board members, we also learned things too. It ends up that there's 2 energy performance contracts. There's one from 2015 that we have 5 years left on. And then in 2022, when we had 8 years left, the board entered into another energy performance contract. It also said there was no cost to the taxpayers because there is savings, but it takes time to realize the savings. It's years down. So we are making payments. And when we saw the savings schedule, the payments outweighed the savings. You know, I personally do not think it's in the best interest of the district to continue. I think that we have to free up money, and not to beat a dead horse, you know, I would like to see teachers and staff come back to the district. I think that's what most affects children here. You know, I don't want to have overcrowded classrooms or whatever. I know the other board members feel similarly. We have 3 contracts we have to negotiate, and the bottom line is to be so realistic We have to free up money to do these things. And we have to look for the biggest bang for our buck to free up the money. And this is a big ticket item. So I'll defer to Megan.
Okay, so I completely agree with what Wendy has said. It was a surprise to learn that we were in an energy performance contract and we still had 5 years left of payments on the energy performance contract. So I think it's on the order of $300,000 per month or per year, per month. What's that?
It's a year.
Per year, thank you. So, and now we have another energy performance contract that was signed in 2022, which seems as though it has some overlap, unfortunately, as well, as there's yet again more lighting included in the energy performance contract. And in the middle of 2015 and 2022, we also underwent a big upgrade at the high school. So it's concerning. It's not all right in front of us as some community members, you might think that the Board of Education has everything clearly laid out side by side to say, why are we doing this again? And it seems as though there is overlap. The energy performance contract is presented as though it's going to cost us $500,000 this year, $700,000 next year, and $1 million every year for 13 years after that. And on an annual basis, we're going to save $500,000. So it'll take what, I don't know, 25, 30 years to pay back the energy performance contract. So I am an environmental engineer. I have a master's degree in energy management. This is like what I love. I love renewable energy. But when I look at a district that is talking about cutting privileges for student teachers in their classroom still, or, we have much larger classes this year in the classroom, and we have 3 units that don't have a negotiation or a contract. It's like this is big money. This is big money. And another concerning part is that in the middle of all of this, we had H2M engineers come in and do a district-wide facility assessment. And some of the priorities recommended in that district-wide facility assessment don't even align with investing in just the energy measures. This role here is a big role, very time consuming. So I can scrutinize this further, but this is what I'm seeing right off the top. And I was told I'm not going to get into the weeds. It's not my job to get into the weeds, but it's concerning. It's very questionable. I heard you, teachers. I heard you, ATA. You said, you come to the podium, you're like, again, you're investing in the physical infrastructure and forgetting about your human infrastructure. So, it's just something that I did want to have on the agenda, Carol. I know you've been living this and talking about this and I'm new to talking about it, right? But it is a big nut. It's a big nut. It's a lot of money over a long time. So to make sure that it truly is the priority of the district at this juncture, at today.
So can I just a couple things. I think what will be very beneficial at this point in time is to have some type of presentation from the proposed energy performance from Honeywell and then from the previous one, just so therefore we all have the correct and factual information. I'm not saying that no one is incorrect what they're saying, so therefore we have everything. So for example, if we're spending $300,000 per year, if we're doing that, the goal was to not have to spend anything, and that the savings was coming from whatever the things, and if we weren't getting the savings, and they were supposed to be paying that bill. So I think that's, in my opinion, that's the first step to find out, are we paying anything for that from the previous energy performance contract? So that's one. And then for the one that we're currently in right now for Honeywell, right, is finding out, having them come and say, if you continue on, this is what we can guarantee. If you don't continue on, you're going to have to still pay us for what we have done already. That will be X amount of dollars. So therefore, they can stand here in front of the board, in front of the community, to justify to all of us that this is how much you have saved, right, with the first one. This is how much you have been, you've had to actually pay. So that's my, and then for the new one that wants to come in, the same thing. You know, if you continue on with this, oh, yes, we can guarantee that you're going to save the money. If that's the case, then prove it to us. And if we're not going to save the money, then if we decide to get out of it, then we can get out of it. So I'm recommending to the board, would you like to have one or both of these individuals come in to do a presentation to the board and the community?
If I could jump in a minute,
Mhm.
time is of the essence.
I know.
Because we have to pay 10% when we got into it, 30% when the plans were drawn, 30% when the state approves it, which is up at the state hasn't approved it,
Right.
and then 30% at completion. We don't have time for a presentation. The Board of Education has to make a decision and has to make it fast. But to Lisa's point, which is well taken, there is going to have to be a payout, and our part, we don't have money, right? So it's like this big circle.
Right.
But what we have to decide is what is in the best interest. Do we just continue just to continue because they're saying at some point you're going to save it? Or do we make a decision, a unilateral executive decision where Board of Education members, people are trusting us with this? Do we make a decision that we have to just separate from this? The attorneys would work on a settlement. Hopefully they can negotiate it a little bit, but they would be a settlement that, perhaps, I'm not saying they would do this, but perhaps they could hopefully make a payment. If they don't, they'd have to take it in one lump sum, but that's what we pay our lawyers handsomely for, to come up with these things. But while that sounds great, and I remember being in the audience for the Honeywell presentation, and I remember the Honeywell presentation being cut short for time, that the whole presentation wasn't even given. I'm only one vote. We all each have a vote. We do not have time for a presentation. An executive decision has to be made.
I also think that for the sake of transparency, perhaps council could prepare a presentation to let the community know.
No, it's not council. It needs to be the energy performance people. that
Well,
do the
I
presentation.
also think that our attorney would have to let the community know the possibility of litigation that we might face and what that might cost, because that has been part of our conversations as well. So the community needs to know the complete ramifications of reneging on this contract.
Caroline, I think you are waiting to say something.
Yeah, the two big questions are, what does it cost us to get out and what do we gain? And we've already been warned that it could cost us $1 million to get out, and there's a threat of litigation. That's a question mark that it would be great to get clarity on. In terms of what we gain, if this was already answered, my apologies. This is a lot to digest because of the two contracts and all the other projects. What does getting out put back into the annual operating budget that's readily available for teachers, contracts, and all the other things that we're missing?
I don't think it does.
Madam President, could we yield a moment to council just for some guidance in the conversation that we're having?
Yeah.
Do you want to do this publicly or in executive session? Because,
He's saying executive session. Yeah.
I'm
Because
just
it-
asking for clarity.
well, we're not sure what if we're talking about potential litigation, do we want to put our litigation strategy on the floor publicly?
My question is just a money one, like
Well,
how much do
that would
we-
be a business official question,
Yeah,
but
that, I was asking Olivia.
okay, yeah.
Do we know how much we can get back into the annual operating budget the next 5 years if we get out of this contract? Even knowing that we'll have to pay $1 million, and let's pretend we don't get sued.
I have to offset that with the potential savings. So this is not something that I can quickly come up with because we have the projection that I gave you where the potential payment, lease payment of the energy performance contract. There are some other state aid, we have to back out state aid because those are guaranteed savings.
Right.
And then there are rebates. We have to back it out.
Yep.
So all those calculations have to come in. So the idea of the company itself coming here to give a presentation to me makes sense.
I know that we are And Wendy, I heard you that we're under, time constraints. But I just feel as a board member, and like you said, we each have, as a board member, I just want to hear from them. That's number one. Number two, to Caroline's point, okay, if we were to come out of this, then what happens from there? Like, if it's connected to state aid and different things, how does that affect us as a district? Does it mean if we come out, are we going to gain, extra $500,000 in the budget automatically? Or, so those are all the things that I think we really need to look at closer before we make this decision that we're going to come out of this. And I think we just have to be very, very careful and make sure we have all of the information and that we're all completely informed so that each of us as a board member can make an informed decision as to whether or not we want to stay in or we want to stay out. That's just my perspective on it. Go ahead, Caroline.
I understand, the numbers aren't at your fingertips and it might take a day or 2 or 3, but would it take more than 2 or 3 days to get that, to figure out, what happens if you take out the state aid and the energy cost savings? Like, why? I feel like that information is so important and worth spending time on.
So would it take about a couple of days or a week or just so we know?
I can only provide the cash flow, which is something that if you want to, I'll put it in the board update tomorrow. Cash
That's
flow is-
kind of what I was asking.
Okay,
So
I'll put
cash
it in-
flow, meaning what's back in the budget next year,
What,
for the
what,
next 5 years?
what they say we are going to save. And, because I have to back out they also include what is called the lease payment, which
Madam
is very
President, excuse me,
different.
Olivia.
Yes,
Can we forward that in writing to the board as to
correct,
what we can provide and when
correct.
expeditiously?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think I
I'll
heard
do
something.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Megan.
Can you also clarify the state aid? Because I haven't heard you mention anything about state aid. I actually sent an email, Dr. Talbot and Mr. Galena, because I had asked that. I said, there's solar in here, so is there money coming back because of the solar?
Can we provide that?
Yes, I'll provide the rebate that we're gonna get in addition to the state aid. The state aid is really the guarantee saving that we provided
Is it,
because
is it a percentage or, a lump sum or?
I'll show it in the cash flow when I
Okay,
send
'cause
it to you
The
tomorrow.
presentation you gave us did not have the state aid in it at all.
The guarantee savings is how much
Guaranteed
state aid you,
savings, the
yeah.
State aid, thank
The $374,000 that I gave.
Gotcha.
All right, so let's move on because we do have to go back into executive session. I also want to be able to have any community input on non-agenda items so we can leave before midnight. Any input on non-board agenda?
Wait, there's old business and new business. I just have a couple of things.
Can we just make it?
I'm going to
very-
make it very brief.
Very, very quick because like I said, we don't want to be here to midnight.
I understand, but that we are here to do business.
I understand that, but on the same token, we all agree that we're going to try to make this as short as possible, cover certain things, therefore we can go back into executive session. If it's something that can be held off to next week, fine. If not,
I'm just
please-
going to go
please just
really
make it
quick.
short.
I'm going to
Thank
go
you.
really quick. I had brought up the high school student board of ed reps. There was a recent article in the NYSBA
Yeah.
newsletter. They said that often the class president is picked. I know that we were discussing how to get somebody. I wanted to bring that up. I brought this up in May. The sign outside of the high school, I had asked if the valedictorian and salutatorian names are going to go on there. It still says budget passed from May. I'm not sure who's in charge of the sign. Can we please get that updated? Welcome back to school. Anything at this point? Hold on a second. Okay, and just for new business really quick, the courier comes very late on Friday nights. Is there a way to have the courier come during the day? He says that he stays late. I know he has a family. He lives out east. I'm wondering if we could get this like more during business hours. Dr. Talbot, do you think that's possible?
That would vary based upon the capacity of copiers. Our weekend transmittal takes a lot of time for copying. Sometimes we are using 2 or 3 copiers as one malfunctions, which happens on a regular.
Yikes.
If we are able to move expeditiously to board docs,
Mhm.
the board could have their information in a more timely fashion.
That would be so great if we could move to that. The website, the APTC was last updated in 22-23. Can we please get that updated? The budget, for some reason there was a lot of, budgets archived on there, but when I looked at it today, the only budgets on there are 24-25. I would ask that the line by line budgets go up for the last at least 4 years, and the voter approved budgets up there. I think I had asked for that before. It hasn't been updated.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yep.
Where's that? For some reason, I thought I saw them before in previous years.
No, they were.
Yeah, okay.
And then it was updated to the voter approved, and then the other ones went away. So I just
Right,
wanted
thank
to
you.
bring that up, if we could just put those back up there. I know Mr. Cardone mentioned that, he sends out the schedules, which I was really excited to hear about the, game schedules. I wanted to know if the district can put up game schedules on the website. There's, a link up there. Maybe we could put that up there. And then, one last thing that this was, recently told to me, and, I thought it was concerning. I wanted to bring it up. It's about the CPR first aid class. I was told to qualify, students had to have an 80 average or better. Is that correct? That it's an elective, and to qualify, they had to have an 80 average or better. And I was worried about students being excluded from this class. Can you look into that? Is that correct? Is that not correct?
I think Ms. Stevens can clarify for us.
I do not believe that's correct, but I will confirm for you.
Great. Do you think that you can include that in the Friday memo? Just, so a parent had told me that, so and that's all I have. See, quick.
Thank you. Any
Lisa,
community input?
Lisa, one thought. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I brought it up in the agenda setting. Wendy brought it up earlier to have a facilities report from
Yeah.
Mr. Galena, but we also kicked around the idea of maybe having something added to the website with facilities updates. So hopefully that can be considered further as well.
I think in the agenda review, it was not only the facility report, but there was different things that was mentioned. I think it mentioned it that if we put it on the website, it will allow the community to keep, and if they did not attend a board meeting or listen, they will be able to at least go to website to find out the latest update. If it's connected to the Northeast Elementary School, the mascot, whatever it may be, it'll be a quick place for someone to go to see that information if they're not able to attend the meeting or listen to a board meeting. So,
I have one more
So
thing. A
that was good.
parent had reached out and had turnkeyed information on a free program regarding safety, regarding trafficking.
Yeah, Dr.
And
Talbot's aware of that. She was going to get back to the person.
Yeah, but I was interested in the board, information for you to share with us, if that's something that we would be bringing in or not. It was free.
I think Dr. Talbot was going to get the review
Okay,
it and get
I
back
think
and let us
Dr. Talbot can
know.
answer.
Yes.
And the news and notes.
Yeah, a meeting has been set up.
Right.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
That's what I meant when that it was being reviewed. And once it gets reviewed, then she'll provide an update to everyone. Community input on non-agenda items.
Two questions. Where is the board in the procedure or developing procedures for the appointment of a student to the Board of Education?
So as of right now, we don't have a procedure. One thing that we were looking at doing was to create a policy. So by creating the policy, it would be clear on how that person would be selected. As Ms. Canestro mentioned, they made a recommendation about being a class president, but there's no guidelines that they give us. So there's a policy that NISBA has that we're going to review to determine that.
There are 8 school districts in Nassau County
Mhm.
and 6 in Suffolk County
Mhm.
that have board members. You might want to, suggestion, pay a visit to those board members to find out what procedure they are using. This way you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Thank
Sec-
you.
Second question I have is, where are we in developing a cell phone policy for students in school?
Dr. Talbot.
That is a
Topic.
hot topic.
You bet.
As it pertains to the school board student member, we have been soliciting some procedures from surrounding districts that we'll be sharing with the board to help us develop and plan our own system. So thanks for asking about our student voice. In terms of cell phone policies, we have been reviewing the student code of conduct. We were hoping that Governor Hochul's input would have been more readily available for schools prior to school opening. So we are actually analyzing our school conduct, formulating our pre-policy meetings to present to our policy committee some recommendations regarding cell phones. As it pertains to cell phones should be out of sight in the classrooms. Cell phones and headphones should be out of sight in the hallways. And our administrators have been communicating that to students. And I know some updated letters were being formulated to send out to parents as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nakia Wolf, 100 Avalon Court, Melville, ATA president. Good evening. It's a lot going on in the district right now, but I just wanted to say that recently I did receive some information about one of our members. Before the beginning of the school year, one of our members was diagnosed with an immunodeficiency illness. At that point in time, we had to come together and figure out how it is that we can support that individual. We were able to get a special donation of sick days as we were looking to get all of our information for our sick banks. So in spite of everything else that is going on, contract and everything else, I just did want to take this time to say thank you to the school board. Want to say thank you to the superintendent who took our request and submitted it to the board. For those who were sitting and those who were here before, we never know what it is that's going on in individuals' lives. This was something that it is that this member had to deal with all year. During superintendent conference, it was great to see him after the fact that he went through such a very difficult time and not knowing whether or not his situation was going to improve. Superintendent's conference day, he did say that there was a likelihood that everything was going well, and then just received, I believe it was today, that he was in full remission. So just wanted to say thank you to the school board for that. I think sometimes there are some things that get lost when it is that we are dealing with issues of contract and all the rest of those things. But I do think that it's important, especially when it is that we are given the opportunity to help our members in need to prevent them from going through unnecessary hardship, where it is that the Board of Education Central Administration is showing some compassion. Now I'm sorry, I got to pivot. Okay. Good evening, Board of Education Central Administration guest. This evening, I would like to express concerns that I have regarding our special education and PPS department. As of now, we currently have an interim in the position who is working to address persistent concerns. I am a little confused as to why we posted a position and we actually held interviews and we've had finalists since July, but we still have the interim. I do understand that it is that there's a transition period, but do we have any new candidates? Do we have the same exact candidates that we've had since July? And if we have not reposted and if we've had those same candidates, then why hasn't anyone been approved? At some point in time, I believe that we are going to be moving on from this interim unless you are going to extend that. I don't know yet, or whether or not it is that you're going to appoint one of these two people, but if 2, 3, whatever. But when you do that, I hope that you're going to take some things into consideration. It is our responsibility to make sure that it is that we vet all of our candidates, to make sure that it is that we are bringing in the best. I think that probably the standard that it is that should be set was something similarly done when the transportation, our new transportation staff member came on board, and how it is that they articulated their goals, what it is that they plan on doing, what their successes were, all things that are measurable and all things that you can go back and check. So I do have a concern about one of the candidates. I don't understand how it is that one of our candidates who seemed to be a finalist is even being considered as a result of the fact that they have engaged in behavior that is unbecoming of a supervisor and a professional. I don't know how it is that a candidate can make the final round when they've made disparaging and unfounded remarks related to one of their fellow staff members. And they did that to a mutual associate that does not even work in their respective school district. This individual who it is that one of our candidates had the conversation with, then turned around and had a conversation with their fellow staff members' families, which caused distress in that home. I think that we have enough issues in this district, and we're supposed to be moving forward, and we're supposed to be, bringing in the best. And just as Dr. Talbert's presentation said, we're supposed to be building bridges. We're supposed to be establishing an environment that is based off of respect and based off of community. I can't understand why it is that we would potentially be considering a candidate that reflects those types of professional actions, or I should say, unprofessional actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other community input on non-agenda items?
Hi, Christine All. Just a question. Are you able to update the community on the assistant principal positions for Northwest and Park Avenue?
The Northwest School and the Park School will have one assistant principal split between the two schools. And that assistant principal will be in place the week of September 16th.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any other community input on non-agenda items? Seeing none, can I have a motion to go back into executive session at 10:07 p.m. for advice from counsel?
For advice from legal counsel and to discuss the appointment of a particular person or persons.
So moved.
That's Carol Seehoff is first.
Second.
Chris Neer is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. We anticipate resuming open roughly in an hour's time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are resuming open at 11:40 p.m. I do apologize. We said that we were not going to have any action items, but we do have to do 2 items. Can I have a motion to amend the agenda to add agenda item 2C3, which is a student settlement agreement?
Motion.
Chris Neeren is first.
Second.
Megan Messman is second. Can we read that resolution?
Resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the stipulation of settlement and general release between the district and the parent of the student listed in confidential Schedule A and authorizes the board president to execute said stipulation of settlement and general release on behalf of the district and the board.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2C3?
Motion.
Second.
Megan, Chris Neeren, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3B4, please?
Motion.
Caroline Fanning is first. Chris Neeren is second. So I will read the resolution. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, Dr. Gina Talbot, that the Board of Education approves the appointment of the following individual as indicated. And Angelica Rodriguez, probationary assistant principal at the high school. Effective date is September 16th, 2024. Probationary period is September 16th, 2024 to September 15th, 2028. Rate of compensation will be $134,000 per year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 11:43?
Motion.
Second.
Winnie Canestro is first, Chris Naren is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Thank you.